Hello friends and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD and today I have a card to show you featuring some products by Catherine Pooler. Now this one is all about Christmas because believe it or not, there's not that many weeks left. So this one features the Old Saint Nick stamp set and coordinating dies. They're the ones shown here and you can see you get a wide array of clothing and articles that Santa may wear, maybe while he's working or on his day off. There's a few sentiments in there too, and then there's the coordinating die set, which cuts all of those articles of clothing out. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out a card panel. So I have this light blue piece of cardstock, and I'm cutting it down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So I'm going to end up making a 5 by 7 inch card. Now I've got my MISTI here and my creative corners because I'm going to do some stamping off the edge of this panel. And all I'm really doing is just taking all of those articles of clothing, basically all of the images from this set, and just placing it around the background to create a heat embossed background here. So once I've got everything kind of where I want it, I can go ahead and remove that creative corner from the top left here. And once I've got that removed, I can press down the top of my MISTI to pick up all of those stamps. Now I'm going to be using some VersaMark Watermark ink to stamp these out. I've used my anti-static powder tool there just to make sure I don't get any stray pieces of powder all over my panel. I'll add a lot of that ink liberally to all of those stamps and then I'll stamp this out. So now that that's carefully stamped, I will pick up the panel and use some Gina white detail embossing powder just to cover the entire panel. Now remember, this is a larger panel, so I've kind of spaced these out pretty nicely. If you're using a smaller panel, you probably don't need all of these images. So I'll just go ahead and hit it with my heat gun here and melt all of that embossing powder. And now we'll just put that aside and move on to the focal point images that we're going to put on our card. So I haven't used all of them. I've just picked a few that I think that are very Christmassy and Santa-ish. More of the on-duty Santa pieces. So we've got the Santa suit, the boots, the bag. We've got the glasses. I've got a candy cane and holly, which I'll stamp a few times. And then I've got the cookies and milk and I think the hat, right? So I'm stamping that all out with some Memento tuxedo black ink because this is perfect for Copic coloring. It's alcohol ink safe. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp these images out just a couple times to get a nice thick black line. Now, as you can see, I did stamp out the holly and the candy cane a few times, and now I'm going to just color all of these images in. So for all of the colors I'm using today, I have an image showing you the colors that I've used. These I'm using Copic Chows here, but there are equivalents in the Copics. And generally, I just pick about 3 colors of like a lighter tone, a mid-tone, a darker tone, and then I just kind of blend them out. Now for today's coloring, I did more of kind of like a stippling effect on the Santa coat and the hat because it has a bit more texture to it, and I find that kind of just dotting it out kind of creates more of a texture feel. So for my highlight, you can see, or for the lightest color, I use more of a pink color, and I've got the darkest red that I have in my set, and then just a medium tone red there. So I'll just color in all of the red portions of this, and then I think I can move on to the hat as well. What I like to do is kind of use the color that, or the 3 colors that I have for everything on my page that uses that color, and then I'll move on to the next set of colors. That way, you know, coloring is just a little more organized. You know, sometimes I get a bit haphazard and I'll grab one color, then another. Then sometimes it's kind of hard to track the colors that you use. So it's really just up to you and how you like to color, right? So now I'll move on to my greens. And for my greens, of course, I've got to color in those 3 hollies. Now, the hollies are just, they're the Christmas part of this card. So I'm going to use them to kind of highlight maybe a couple of the images or just the sentiment on this card. If you want, you can you can stamp out and have more hollies on your card and maybe create a bit of a border or something like that. I think that would look nice here. I think the main thing for my cards, or what I like to do, is to choose a color scheme because I find when you choose a color scheme and it's something that you like and you've kind of chosen that this will be that and that will be that, once it all comes together, it all tends to look much better because you've got some nice contrasting and a group of colors that goes well together. So that's what I've done here. I went ahead and I go ahead and I look online at cards from other people, or I'll type in color scheme and search those up on my phone and just find maybe a color scheme that I think would work well for Christmas. And this worked well, so I thought that I'd put this together, and then you'll realize that when you do it, when you finish your card, it will just look so much better than if you pick on the way. I like to do that little bit of planning. So for my boots, I actually use some browns in the background because, Santa's boots kind of get a bit muddy and dirty. I know they're black, but sometimes, you gotta make sure that they represent Santa, right? So Santa's busy. He's got some muddy boots. So I made sure I added the brown on those black shoes. Now I'm adding my yellows to the belt and the belt buckles of the shoes. And now I'm using all of my lighter tone browns to color in the sack. And then I'll also color in the little cookies on the plate there. So as I said, I'll color in each tone or each color one at a time, or like in a group, so that I don't have to kind of go back to this color and that color. And what I tend to do is I'll use the darkest color first. I'll blend it out with the middle color, then the lightest, and then I'll go back with the dark and blend with the middle again. Now I'm coming in with our lighter colors, which is BG10, and then I've also got, I think, C1 or C3, one of the lighter cool grays, and the lighter blue is more for like the milk and the glasses, because it kind of shines like a blue versus a gray. And then the gray is more for the fluffiness or the white part of the coat and the hat. And then again, just like I did with the red, I'm going to just do like a bit of a stippling effect there to create the fluff and to add a little bit of texture in my drawing. And it's just a little bit of a highlight because it is white and the gray is the highlight there. Now, I always like to mention this. I like to use my Jelly Roll pen in opaque white, size 8. I just use it for my highlights. I always forget to put my highlights in. I try my best. You can see on the Santa hat and the coat, I tried to keep that pink in there, but I always color in the white. I can never leave a bit of white for the highlight. So this always comes in handy. Just go ahead and draw a few lines in the darkest portions, because that's where it'll show up, of your coloring, and those will create your highlights. And you can see on the boot, it actually makes it look much better. So I just kind of draw a line, maybe a couple dots, and then I'll do that in all of the different areas on my images that make it stand out a little more. So once I got everything nicely colored in, I'll go ahead and grab my coordinating dies. So these ones you have to separate. So grab your cutting tool, and I'll separate all of the dies that I need to use, and I'll grab my washi tape, and I like to just kind of adhere them. So my washi tape is a low tack tape. You could use purple tape. You could use any type of low tack tape to just hold these in place while you put it through your die cutting machine. Especially because you have so many images, mine always move, and my plates are warped, so there's no way that's getting through there without moving. So I've gone ahead and cut them all out, and you can see all of the beautiful little images. They just look so much better once they're cut out and have that nice outline, right? So let's move on to the sentiment. I'm using the Santa Claus is Coming to Town sentiment, and it's a nice thick one. So I basically put it on my acrylic block. You could use your MISTI if you want to make sure it's straight. I'm just putting it on some nice red cardstock, and I'm heat embossing it again with the white embossing powder. So when I'm stamping like this with my acrylic block, I like to use the bottom of a piece of cardstock that's already straight. I know it's straight, I haven't cut it yet, right? So this is a scrap, but I know this bottom part is straight, so that's how I lined it up. It was easy to stamp out. And once it's heat embossed and the heat has been added and my powder's all melted, I can cut this out. So I've cut my strip here ready to go. I'm going to add another strip of white foam to the back. So this is just plain foam. There's no adhesive or anything. I'm going to add my adhesive here with my dot runner. And it's just because I want it to sit above that background a little bit. It just gives your items your sentiment, and I'm going to use the foam for all of those little pieces as well. It gives it a bit of lift. It makes it stand out a bit more, especially because we have, put some of the images outlined on the background as well. So before we get to the fun part, which is to add all those die cuts, I'm going to go ahead and add this to the white card base. So I've already cut a white card base. This is a 5 by 7 inch card base, as I mentioned. It's a bit larger than an A2 size. And I'm just going to add some adhesive and attach this to the front. Now you can see, since it was a little smaller, I've got a nice white border all around the edge. So now I'm going to grab my foam squares, and I like this variety pack because you get some bigger ones, you get some small ones, because not all your die cuts are the same size, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just place all of these Santa images all around the center of this card here, just to kind of show, hey, Santa Claus is coming, you know, what's indicative of Santa. You've got his coat, his bag, all of these things that we colored in die cut. So I was actually going to have some of these images just glued straight onto the card and some of them lifted, but I found to kind of make it stand out more from that background, I did need the foam squares. So even for the boots, you can see I kind of just haphazardly have them slightly overlapping over top of the sentiment strip there. Same with the sack. And that just going to ties everything together. I'll stick on the little note and then Santa's glasses. And now I can kind of also add the little candy canes where I want. So I'm going to stick one on top of the of Santa's sack, and then I'll also put one behind the hat. Now I went ahead and I ended up just gluing that one with some Barely Arts glue flat onto the card there. And then I also added the second one because, as you recall, we did color 3 of these and I didn't want to just waste the last die cut. And then I'll just go ahead and place those hollies around the sentiment there as well. Now, if you're like me, and sometimes I overestimate and I end up coloring way more and cutting way more die cuts than I actually need, you could use your extras if you have them for another card, or you could use them on the inside of your card to kind of tie in your design from the front to the inside. I didn't have any extra this time, but if I did, that's probably what I would have done. So now let's go ahead and embellish. I've got these Butterscotch glitter drops from Pinkfresh Studio. They came out recently, and I thought they went well with this because I've got a lot of the blue and the red and green going here. So I thought that these kind of have a bit of a goldish look to it, a beige look, and it kind of just evens everything out and just ties the brown into everything as well. And once I've got all of those embellishments on there, then my card is pretty much done. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. Don't forget to like if you have liked the video, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. And don't forget that all of the products that have been used today are listed in the description below. And just a reminder, this set is called Old Saint Nick by Catherine Pooler. You can go ahead and check it out in the store. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you guys again next time. Bye.